G'day everyone, Dikko here with another kick-ass walkthrough. And what do you know, a brand new logo review. Oh, that's fancy. Anyway, today we're going to talk about animatics, how to build them, and why they're so important for animation. And now I know some of you are saying, Dikko, where's my texturing and rigging tutorials? I want them now. Well, firstly, settle down, they'll come, don't worry. But here's the thing, this channel is also not only a 3D tutorial channel, this is more of a filmmaking and storytelling channel as well. So the 3D just helps me in creating stories. So there are elements for me to talk about when it comes to building stories. The other thing I want to mention is that the world in terms of 3D and animation and storytelling doesn't revolve entirely around Blender. The Blender community seems to have this idea that it is the be-all and end-all of everything, when it really isn't. So we're going to talk about other software today and how to use it, at least in a general sense. And now is the best time to bring up animatics because besides the story and the structure and the composition of things, it also will help to inform what we need to build into our rigs when it comes to the animation of the characters. It will also set the stage to inform us what to build into the scenes, what rooms to build, what we need to texture, what we need to light, what we need to create. And that was just a quick little time lapse of the storyboarding process using Storyboarder. I talked about it earlier in another video a few months ago. So let's jump into Storyboarder and talk about how to export out our boards and bring them into Resolve. Alright, so we're in the Storyboarder here and I am ready to export out all my boards as a piece of video footage. So I actually have the option of exporting this out as an image sequence, but I find that in this case I might just go straight up with video because I have so many boards, so many images to stack and edit that it doesn't make sense for me to go in and just add every frame individually. It's just a waste of time. So what I want to do is export out these boards as video. And one of the cool things about Storyboarder is that it allows you to do that. So you can actually just push export to video, choose where you want to export it to, and it will just export in the background and then prompt your Explorer with, it will just pop up Explorer or Finder or whatever you use and inform you that the video has been rendered out. And an interesting thing about this software is that it actually supports editing the boards as if it were already a video. So you can actually construct your animatics inside of Storyboarder here and change out like the timing of the boards and stuff like that. But again, you know, this is early day software and it's a bit buggy. And at the same time, I want the opportunity to be able to edit any sound footage and any music that I may add on the fly. So you can't really do that with this software, so I'd rather just jump into a fully fledged editing software for video and edit it that way. So again, there's all my boards. You can see it play back. You can actually, you know, click on any of these boards and see what's going on. It has all the descriptions on the side there of what the boards do. And it's pretty straightforward. All I just push is export to video. It exports an MP4 or a MOV, I think. And basically that's ready to go. So not very complicated stuff here. We're going to spend most of the time of this video inside of DaVinci Resolve. So if you're using Storyboarder, very easy to storyboard up your boards. Very easy to organize your screenplay with your boards and scenes. And very easily and very quickly, all things considered, it exports the video very fast. So definitely recommend trying that out. And if you are in the world of animation and are planning to make a short film, either as a student for a school or on your own as a hobby, I think that this software is genuinely one of the best storyboarding software out there that you could get with a budget of $0. So yeah, definitely recommend this and download it and check it out. Anyway, let's pop into Resolve and have a look at our video footage. Alright, so here we are in DaVinci Resolve, and you can see here that Storyboarder in all its wisdom has actually already labeled the storyboard scenes or the shots in the file name itself, which is perfect for what we need. So in edit mode, or well, I guess at the edit section of Resolve, I'm just stacking in all of my different shots. And before I start chopping and changing and retiming out these boards, I have what is called a scratch track, or in my case, it is a scratch track voiceover file. And a scratch track is basically a draft version of the voice or the music or something to help you pad out and time out your shots. Because creating an animatic without any sort of sound reference is really hard to do right. Because not only is animation and filmmaking a visual medium, it is as much a audio medium as well. So the speed in which you do cuts, the speed in which the action happens, all is dependent on also the audio and the audio cues to help inform the audience about what's happening or what is going to happen. And as you can see here, I'm just resizing my boards here because the resolution I have in mind for my animation is a little bit ambitious. Hopefully it works, but right now I'm planning on doing the whole film in 4K, and that is stupidly ambitious, all things considered, but I thought I'd try. You don't have to do this. Stick to 1920 by 1080 for your own shots, because if you have a slower computer, your life will be easier. Not only in terms of performance, but also file size. But for me, I'm trying to do something different here for myself. And you can tell here from the boards, they aren't very fancily drawn. I haven't put that much effort into the actual drawing of the storyboards. They're just enough information for me personally to communicate to myself and maybe others who are going to watch this what's about to happen. And storyboards can be as polished or as rough as you need them to be according to either the client, the audience, or whoever's going to watch it. And of course, it needs to have enough information for those who are going to build the rest of the animation. So it could be artists, editors, etc. You need to have enough information for them to understand what's about to happen and go on. If you don't have enough information, then your storyboard needs more detail. So I'm just scrubbing through some of my boards here, just making sure it's all in there, and it seems to be in pretty good order. So now it's just a matter of adding in the audio and starting to actually edit the footage. All right, so I've sped up the footage here just because I'm just going to talk over the process more than showing you a step-by-step, because using using Resolve is really easy. It's probably one of the easiest softwares to learn to smash out quick and easy video, even compared to Adobe Premiere, for instance. Okay, so one of the things you do when you're making animatics is that you add some very basic camera movement if you need to. So in this case, I'm actually just moving the storyboard up and down, not really caring about the black bars at the bottom, just moving it into place to sort of give myself an indication of how I want that camera to sort of reveal my characters at the start of the film. And this is an optional thing. You don't have to do it if you don't need to. So every now and then I may bring in a single screenshot frame of one of my boards to sort of elongate a shot. And that's because it's just easier to do that sometimes. I might just bring in a single frame, bring it in, and then just pad out that shot a little bit further. And that's the other great thing about Storyboard, is that it actually automatically saves JPEG files of your storyboards as you draw them. So you don't have to actually worry about exporting them. It actually just stores them automatically. So you have an instant library of all your shots to bring into your video editing software. All right, so now I'm getting to the point where I have to have my voiceover inside of my animatic. And I haven't done that yet because I haven't had any speaking roles pop up yet, but again, it's a very simple affair. Just drag and drop the audio into the scene. And if you're wondering why you can't hear the audio, it's because I'm not going to show you my damn animatic with my script and everything this early on. You have to wait till the finished product, mate. Be patient. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm basically just going to start timing out my cuts according to the audio. And you can see the audio waveforms there at the bottom there of the screen. I'm just timing the occurrence of my shots with the action that I've drawn into my boards. So you can see I'm starting to chop and change up my my storyboard here, because by having it as a single piece of footage, I personally find it a lot easier than having to wrangle all the boards as individual elements, because I don't have hundreds and hundreds of of frames to compensate and fix. I just have to edit the video. And you can see here I've had to add extra frames in there. I'm trying to time out the specific shots with the actions. And the great thing about having it as a single piece of footage is that I'm able to just quickly cut out things I don't want, shorten up shots, and just play with the timing. And that's a lot easier than going in and changing individual frames that I have saved. And every now and then I'll come across a certain shot that I feel needs to be padded out with an extra shot, and I might just go into Critter, for instance, and just make a really quick filler frame. I mean, I could do this in Storyboarder with my file, but in this case I just couldn't be bothered going into the Storyboarder, adding the frame, retiming, etc. I just open up Critter, draw a picture, export, good to go. And if your animation doesn't have any sort of voice acting involved, think about different ways you can sort of help to pad out or time out your animation. So it could be a click track, so something like a metronome, where it sort of like gives you the beat for the shots. So it's sort of like, and that'll give you the sort of timing that will help you pad out or time out your shots. And obviously another alternative would be actual music. So if you have a music track in mind, you would have that music track in your project to help you time out. If you have a intention to get a custom track made, then the idea would be to try and get that person to create a very basic, bare bones version of that final track for your animatic. So in my personal case, I don't yet have any official voice actors ready to act out my characters. So, well, I was planning on having friends just record off an iPad or something to give me a set of dialogue that I could time to, but coronavirus, lucky me, I couldn't get them together in one room to do that. So I basically just paid a voice actress, on Fiverr or something to just do the voice for me, with the intention that it will be replaced in the future. But it was good enough for me to time out my animatic, basically. The only real important part about having a scratch track is that the person doing the voice or the dialogue, or the group of people doing the dialogue, sort of presents the voice acting in the sort of candor that you are intending on having for the final film. So what I mean by that is basically you want the voice actor to sort of talk at the pace in which you want the film to be presented at, and you want some degree of emotion coming out of the voice actor when they do it. You don't want them to sound like they're just straight up reading off a script. You still want to hear a little bit of emotion behind those words. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be great, it can just be good enough to get the right amount of energy into that animatic. And the same can be said with music. So you might not have the final music output, but as long as it has the right beat or BPM or underlying energy in the music, it should be enough to help you plan out those cuts and plan out the pacing of that animatic. You don't want to have a slow, somber song in a high energy shot when you really need to get that energy in there. So getting a high energy music to match that high energy shot is really important for that animatic stage, because then if you do get around to getting that final music done, you'll be able to just replace that music down the line very easily. And one of my recommendations in that case is, if you have a certain, like I said before, a certain kind of BPM or beats per minute track in mind and a pace, try and find a song that matches that BPM almost exactly. Well, exactly, basically. So if you're going for maybe like 200 BPM in your final track, try and find a song that sort of matches that BPM, so you can break up your cuts in that sort of that candor, so you can get that pacing right. So let's talk about the actual animatic and what it's important for at this stage. So the animatic is really the first major test of finding out whether or not your story is working. It's telling you that the dialogue is working between the shots of the storyboard. It's telling you that the pacing of the actual film is right or wrong. And it's telling you whether or not you need to add more or take away from the story to make it better. So a perfect example is from me making this animatic this weekend. Strangely enough, I had it in the script that a character does a certain thing, and it's never really explained why they do it. I show it in the storyboards, the action happens, the exchange happens, but when you look back at it in terms of animation or in the animatic, you get the question, why did they do that? Or why are we showing that? And honestly, there's no real reason why it should be in there, apart from it being a character-driven thing. But if an audience member was to look too far into it, they would see this as technically a plot hole. In my mind, I have a reason for it to be there, but because of the time I have to animate this thing, I can't really explain it without going into too much detail. I don't want to add that exposition that far into the film, so it kind of has to stay there, or I have to think of an alternative way to make that action work, basically. And funnily enough, as I'm recording this, I have just thought of a solution that will work. And I wouldn't have really thought of that solution until I saw the animatic in its final form. So I'm watching it as if I'm watching a film, and I'm looking at it critically, and I'm saying to myself, that doesn't particularly work in isolation. I know that as a person who wrote the script, why I've given that character that action, but as an audience member who hasn't looked at the script, who hasn't learnt about the backstory of these characters and stuff like that, they have no fucking idea why the character does this. So it's up to me to fix that and make sure it's clear as day. So that means I have to go back to my boards, add a few extra frames, or maybe switch up a few of the frames, maybe tweak my script a little bit, and then bring that back into the animatic, so I have absolute certainty that the audience understands why the character is doing that. And that is ultimately what the animatic and storyboarding phase is all about. It's all about finding what's broken and fixing it as early as possible. Finding why something doesn't work. Why is the composition not working, maybe? Why is the timing not working, maybe? And why especially isn't the story working if it isn't working? Why? What particular thing is making this story feel broken, for instance? And that's not to say you can't get away with just bad story writing. I mean, there's plenty of Hollywood films, TV shows, etc. that completely break the plot. I mean, there's plot holes in every film, and some are worse than others. And most likely it's because they either chose to just ignore the issues, or they just had a feeling that the audience wouldn't care. And the animatic actually gives you that information as well. So if you were to show this to an audience member that has no background in story writing and just likes watching films, and you ask them for feedback and they don't bring up any issues that you think that may have been an issue, it means that either the story is good enough that they don't give a shit, or that the problem is small enough that you can kind of ignore it. Ultimately though, it's up to you what you think is important to fix and what is not so important that you can kind of get away with it. So we're about, 20 minutes into this little chat of mine, and you're probably wondering, what the fuck? I thought this was a DaVinci Resolve tutorial. Why has he been talking about animatics for so long? And here's the reason why. You can make an animatic with anything. You can make it with Photoshop, you can make it with Premiere, you can make it with even After Effects, even though it's slow as shit. But the thing is that you have to learn how to get right is understanding how to construct a story. That's the most important part. But there is a reason why I use Resolve, and it's quite simple, is its retime controls are fucking amazing. They're so easy to use. You may have been seeing me do it throughout this video, but basically, unlike Premiere, which only lets you speed up footage up to around 2000%. Resolve lets you go to any speed you want. So if I have to retime a shot by like 200-300% and just slide it, I can. If I have to bring in even video footage and slide it, I can. The additional things that make Resolve so good for building animatics is its one-stop shop solution for everything. So you have editing, you have even some motion graphics ability through Fusion and compositing. You have color correction. If you really want to add that to your animatic, you can. But the other great thing is Fairlight, which has a fully fledged audio editing system inside of Resolve, which makes editing audio and editing the VO very, very easy and quick. Whereas in Premiere, you do have some degree of editing audio, but not to the level that you have in Resolve. Not only that, is that you can easily export to a myriad of formats out of Resolve as well. I mean, the same thing can be said for Premiere, but its rendering speed is vastly faster than Premiere because it relies on the GPU over the CPU. Until recently, Premiere could only render out using the CPU, which made it dog shit slow. And that's even worse with After Effects. I don't understand how some people can make animatics in After Effects, but personally, I stay away from that because it's just so fucking slow. Why would you do that? Unless you're doing motion graphics, obviously. But yeah, it's a combination of performance, responsiveness, and feature set that I really appreciate about Resolve that makes my life a lot easier. And of course, some of you have actually been wondering, how is he smashing out all these videos so quickly? He's like some sort of machine or something. Well, the answer is Resolve. So, let's wrap up then, eh? And let's wrap up with a few bits of advice. So you may be asking, well, I'm new to doing animatics. How do I know that what I'm doing is right? Well, the answer is quite simple. Just give it to someone to watch. If they don't squint and go, huh? Or if they go, yay, this is great, then you are usually on the right track. And don't just ask them questions after the film is over. Look at their faces when they're watching it, because you'll know when they tilt their head like a little puppy, or whether they squint and go, huh? Or whether they go, they just sort of look like they smelt a bad smell. You'll know that something's going on in their head, that they aren't quite processing that scene at that specific time, or that they don't understand the logic of that specific scene. So look at them watching it, keep an eye on their reaction at certain spots, and put down a little time code in your head or on a piece of paper. And then at the end of the watching session, ask them the question, at this point in time, did you understand what was going on? Or how did you feel? Or stuffing like that. And if they're being honest with you, you'll get an honest answer and you'll be able to make changes as you will. The other thing to do is basically look at examples. Find examples online of what good animatics are and compare them with the final film that was released. And one of the best ways to do that is to get some DVDs with special features, especially animation ones, and just compare their special features, which have animatics, usually they have animatics in them, and compare them with the final output and see how things have changed, and see that things that are in the animatic have survived up until the very end of the film, and you'll understand how important that animatic process was to the final output of the film. Anyway, I've ranted on for way too long, and I hope that this was informative anyway, because I did enjoy talking about it. So what I will say is that I'm excited for the next couple of months because my animatic is done. That means I can start on making animation. I can start doing the rigs. I can start doing the scene setup. I can do all that cool stuff that makes the film a film. So look out for a lot more black curtain stuff because it's going to come very fast and very suddenly, and it's all going to be about that for the next 6 months. So I'm super excited to move on, and I can't wait to show you the final output when it's ready. So until then, I will say catch us and have fun.